Hey guys, Gabriel Varga here. Now, today is a sad day for the kickboxing community. I just saw, you may have seen that Glory Kickboxing filed for bankruptcy, and I know that is devastating for the fans of kickboxing, for the fighters, and also for the guys who put their heart and souls into making that promotion the best it could possibly be. Now, I have two of these belts. They were just my lifelong goal to achieve getting one of these. So I can imagine how devastating it must be for those fighters who haven't got one yet, who made it their dream to be a Glory champion, and now it's snatched away, not from anything they did, just from the fact that this promotion may cease to exist. Now we're going to talk about that today, what Glory meant to everybody, what Glory could have done to stick around, what mistakes did they make, because in my opinion there were some big mistakes that may have precipitated Glory ending up in this situation. And I also want to sit down and talk about how fantastic they were and where they came from in the history of the whole promotion. Now, first and foremost, I want to start with where this bankruptcy information is coming from. I saw it from a TSN reporter, Aaron Bronstetter. Okay, so he is a MMA reporter for TSN. Hopefully he knows what is happening and it's not just false information, but I did a little bit of follow-up as well, and it looks like there are claims from fighters from an event back in December, Glory fighters saying they still haven't been paid. Cor Hemmers, one of the leading guys, one of the talent scouts for Glory, matchmaker, he apparently has left the promotion. A couple other guys have been, whatever you want to call it, either laid off or fired. So it's not looking good for Glory. Now, this to me isn't that surprising, because even when I was with the promotion, there were stalls and hang-ups. I mean, I won my Glory contender title, I believe that was in June, and I didn't fight again until the next year in April. And I was just told that, you know what, there were financial troubles and they were trying to sort things out, so they got a new investor and boom, things happened again. And then when I left the promotion in 2016, after pay disputes and eventually going to Bellator, I heard even more rumors that things were not going well for Glory and they were getting new investors, and it just constantly felt like it was new investors. And at what point are investors going to wake up and go, you know what, it looks like they're bleeding money. So I want to talk about first, why was Glory bleeding money and why were they not having revenue that could match the money going out? And really, to get to the bottom of that, let's go back to sort of the heyday of kickboxing when K1 was just enormous. But K1 went bankrupt, and all of a sudden there was this massive space in the kickboxing world where there were no big promotion holding events. So along comes this amazing group, and out of the former It's Showtime and something called, I think, United Glory, they together, after trying to buy K1, these amazing guys together put Glory. And Glory's founded, and they start putting on these amazing events, like taking all the best fighters in the world and just putting them all in one arena and just fighting it out. Fantastic. Now the issue for me, the big thing, like even for my first fight card, I was on, I believe, Glory 8 was my first introduction to Glory, and I was flown over to Japan for this $100,000 8-man featherweight tournament. But on top of that, there was Peter Arts, Andy Risty, Albert Kraus, just the list went on and on about all these massive heavyweight K1 icons who were there. And I remember looking around just going, this is one of the biggest kickboxing events I've ever seen. But Glory was still a young promotion, and how are they paying for it? That was my big question. I mean, the arena was not packed. It was not like K1 in the old days where you'd look around and you'd see somewhere between 10 and 50,000 people. I mean, that arena, in my opinion, when I was there, maybe had 3,000 people. So Glory at that point was not K1, especially in Japan. They didn't have loads of people coming in to watch the event. They probably didn't have lots of people around the world on TV watching the event. So it seems to me right from the get-go, this promotion was already bleeding money. And my big issue with this at the beginning was, you know, I was an entry-level fighter. I was getting paid very, very small, but something I was still happy with, you know, a few $1,000s to show up. And I thought that was great just because I'm with the main promotion in the world. But all the other guys, the Labaners, the Peter Arts, the Remy Bonjanski, all those guys were getting paid what they always did, and it was big money. So you have these enormous kickboxing icons who are just getting paid fantastic sums of money, and there's no way to possibly cover all their fight purses. And these old K1 icons definitely deserve it, but here's the issue, which I noticed right from the beginning when the promotion opened. They were focusing and pushing on these K1 icons, which is great, but these guys are not going to be around for much longer. And when you're putting all the money and all the emphasis on these dudes and then they retire, what are you left with? You're left with a bunch of new fighters like myself who got no attention, who the crowd doesn't know, the fans don't know, they don't care about, because, and this is my second issue with the way that Glory structured themselves, they didn't let the fans get to know the fighters. So once these icons, the Rainbow Jansky, Peter Arts, once they retired and they moved on, we had all the young fighters, but nobody got a chance to get to know them. And for me, the big mistake with any promotion is not taking the time to really showcase your fighters. People care about fighters, want to watch fighters when they feel connected to them. If you don't know anything about the person in the ring, you don't care about them and you're not invested, and you won't come back again to watch them unless something crazy in the ring happens. But 99 out of 100 times you're going to watch the fighter, you're going to go, oh, that was a good fight, and then forget about them. So having some sort of show like a 24/7 that HBO used to do, or UFC Embedded, that is where the money is, because you are going to attract fans who are committed to watching their favorite fighters over and over, no matter what. Now, in all fairness, I do know that hosting or creating those type of shows, those little reality segments where you get to know the person, where they talk to you, you actually have to fly in a whole crew to the fighter's hometown. You got to sit down, you got to talk with them, you got to show the fans the house that they live in, where they train, what they drive. That's an expensive process. You have to fly people into this guy. You have to have somebody behind the scenes editing, creating content, and that, I've been told, is just like bleeding money. But if you're throwing away money already, you're throwing it away on these big fighters, hoping that it's going to bring you some return, it's going to bring you some notoriety, I say you're better off creating recognition for the new fighters who are going to be around for a whole nother decade, and that up front are not going to cost that much money. You know, my pay, like I said, is just $3,000 starting. So once I build up to, $6,000, $8,000, $10,000, up to $20,000, then by that point, you've had years, 2 or 3 years, we've already worked to make these fighters stars, and now the fans have seen behind the scenes into your lives, and by the time you're paying them the big money, people are already connected to them. And you had those 3 or 4 years where you weren't paying those fighters that much, so you can invest in them and take the money you would be paying the big stars, put it into those fighters to build them up with those behind the scenes reality segments. So the first mistake that Glory made, in my opinion, was putting all the focus on the older fighters who had been around for a long time but were going to be leaving the stage fairly soon. Number 2, they didn't take the time to help you to get to know the fighters, to create that connection. And number 3, and this was a big one, when they finally did create stars, they created guys who were champions or on the verge of being champions, but those fighters wanted a little bit more money, a tiny bump. They ended up going, nope, we're not dealing with you, go and sign with another promotion, and they lost their stars. Now, how many times did this happen? How many times can you think of Glory fighters leaving for another promotion? Okay, aside from myself, think number 1, we have Israel Adesanya. He went and became the UFC champion. He was a superstar within a couple of fights of being in UFC. Number 2, we have Joe Schilling. He left, he went to Bellator. It's one of the reasons I followed, is he was saying Bellator was such a great promotion. Okay, he's not the champion over there, but he's getting paid well, and he puts on fights that the fans really like. And he now, if you look on social media, he has a massive following, much more than when he was with Glory. Number 3, they lost Nicky Holtzkin, and he was one of their main stars. I mean, it was him and Rico at one point who I was going, okay, these are the main 2 dudes that they're promoting, that they're putting the most effort behind. And then all of a sudden he probably wants some more money, or not even sometimes more money, he just wants to get paid what he was as the champion. He was the champion, he lost the belt, and then from what I heard, and what I heard about him complaining, he's just going, I'm not taking a pay cut now that I've lost the belt. I've been your champion for multiple years. I don't deserve a pay cut, and I 100% agree with him. You can't treat fighters like, oh, you're the champion right now, and you're our champion, but we can't really give you more money until you do more for us. And then if they do lose the belt, and let's be real, it's very hard to hold the belt for multiple years over and over. At some point you lose it, your contract expires, and then they're like, oh, we're gonna pay you less. So he did the smart thing and went to another promotion who were gonna pay him well. Now that's only 3 examples. Those are 3 big examples, but this happened at least to 10 fighters that I can think of, including myself. And we're not talking a 40, 50, 100% raise in salary. For me, and probably for a lot of those guys, we're just talking 10 to 20%. Now, yes, in hindsight, they were probably bleeding money and they didn't have the resources, but really you have stars, you can't let them go, because they're the guys that are going to keep the fans coming, and they're the guys that are going to bring you money in. And finally, number 4, in my opinion, Glory was recognized as the world premier kickboxing organization. That's great, but it doesn't mean you need to travel around the whole entire world from spot to spot and try to make yourselves a big global organization like UFC who can go to every country. You want to focus in and find somewhere that you can sell tickets. And we've seen this recently with Glory. They can go into somewhere like Holland or Germany and sell out that arena, and it looks like there's probably 10,000 people in there. And even if the average ticket is only $75, you're still talking about $750,000 that brings in, and that's going to cover a lot of your fighter expenses, and it's going to make sure that you're not losing money. But I can guarantee you, when these guys go through the same production value, they come over and they come to the States somewhere, and or Dubai, you know, when I fought in Dubai for my first Glory title, there was probably 2,000 people in the room. The ticket sales are not helping at all to pay for how much it costs to fly guys all around the world to put on these massive events. So if they could have focused in on Europe, let's say, as their main hub, bring the fighters into them, sell out every time. Yes, maybe you're not recognized as a global fight organization where you're traveling around, but people from around the world are still going to watch. People who watch Glory love that promotion. The North American fans that were there, I mean, there weren't loads of them, but they will still be there. They'll still be watching. Now, if you take those 4 factors into account, it's not surprising to me that Glory had been bleeding money. Now, when you look up bankruptcy, it just basically means that you are in this little state where your creditors can't come and get money that you owe them. It looks like you're basically just protecting yourself, what assets you possibly have left from being taken from you. So Glory being bankrupt, does that mean they'll never return? No, maybe they'll get some more money, maybe there'll be some new investors, and they can make some changes within the company and they can bounce back. And I really hope they can, because as I mentioned before, this promotion has just been so fantastic for the fighters. Glory put people like me on the kickboxing world stage. People know my name now. Without Glory, that probably wouldn't have happened. So all the fighters out there, all the guys who are currently signed with Glory, who dreamed of signing with Glory and having a chance at winning their belt, I really, really hope that you do get your opportunity. But there are always other promotions that will pick up the slack. You know, ONE FC's out there, Bellator's out there, there's lots of Chinese promotions. So there will be other spots to go. It's just that people became so familiar with this belt being the kickboxing belt to have. And I guess I can count myself really lucky that I had the opportunity to compete for this belt, because my dad told me that years ago. He said the worst thing that can happen right now, this was back after I won my Glory Contender Trophy, he said the worst thing that can happen to you is Glory goes under right now and you never ever got your shot to try and fight for that title. So to everybody in Glory who made the events happen, from the very first event to the very last one, especially all the ones that I was involved in, everybody, thanks you so much. You did an amazing job. And I'm sure there's so many people out there like me who really hope that we see Glory back on their feet. They come back, recover from this, and put on more great fights, more great events in 2021, probably once things have calmed down. All right, guys, thanks for joining me today. I wish this episode was better news. It's kind of disappointing news, disappointing with everything else that's happening in the world too. It's just more bad news. There's just so much of that lately. But make sure you check out the rest of my channel. I have lots of fun stuff on there, lots of good news, lots of instructional videos. And starting next week, you're going to be able to check out my new series, Self-Care, how to take care of yourself, your body at home, all the tactics, techniques that I've been using to make sure that I stay healthy and fit and can compete injury-free. Until that new video, guys, train hard, and I'll see you back here soon for another episode.